We gotta keep this place clean, Mark.
who caused the spill that needed that?
It wasn't me.
There's some lore there? Okay.
Yeah, probably you.
Not me. Anyways,
what I meant.
welcome to the waiting room. As you've noticed, Freak is here.
Hello, I'm back. I lasted a month. No, it's not true.
They set you back.
Like, it's too bad.
So for anyone who might have missed the off-season news, why don't you catch everyone up with where you've been, what you've been working on?
I don't cast anymore. I'm a game designer on the Summoners Rift team. Summoners Rift team is one that handles, everyone knows it's like the balance, preseason updates. We take a lot of mid-scopes on and stuff as well. So it's overall live balance changes, whether that's actual balance or any kind of sort of reshape and stuff.
Yeah, you've also made a bunch of like YouTube videos about
Yeah.
a lot of the balance changes.
Yeah.
And there's like probably a non-zero sum of people that think you were responsible for the balance of League of Legends.
Oh,
Do you want to
sure.
talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of a team, right? So I don't think there's a single thing I put into the game that did not have like 5 other people touch it in a meaningful way. So it's either like someone else has the project goal of like, we should raise AD carry satisfaction. Like that was there before I joined the team. And then we do our planning of like, who's gonna take what work. And I'm like, oh, I wanna do that. And then I have like version 1 of the changes when it's like 80% of that you should cut instantly. And then 20% of that, let's iterate on. And here's another thing that we're like, I think you should do. And I'm like, that's a good idea. And so even in stuff where it's like, oh, it's like my project is like 30% me, 70% the team.
Yeah.
And then some stuff where it's like 0% me and just it's just their thing, right? But everything is going to be always very collaborative. Well, you know, someone starts to change, we tend to agree. Someone sets direction, we kind of figure out details from there. So yeah, all of it is very collaborative. Though certainly I'm involved, right? I'm a non-zero portion of the team, so I've had an impact, which is cool.
What's been the most fulfilling part of the work so far? Making that transition.
Player reactions. So like initially it was like, oh, I got you to do stuff like right away. That's really cool. And then it's like the number of players have been like, oh, I've really enjoyed playing AD carry now since I can buy IE second. I'm like, all I've really done is like, you can buy IE second now. And they're like, I love it. And I'm like, all right, great. But you know, seeing like I buffed a bunch of Nautilus and Alistar AP ratios, and people were like okay with them. They got whittled back. There was more Graf Nautilus buffs earlier, and they're like, that's a bit much. And it's like Nautilus tops pick rate like tripled for the first day of the patch, and it was like,
Nice.
okay, it's not actually good, but like people tried it. I was like, wow, it's cool. I'm like getting players to like try things out or have fun with it. I played some normal games last week, and my mid laner was like, I'm playing AP Thresh mid. And he was against New Aurelion Sol. And then I was like, that's
Is that a winning matchup?
Wow.
Yeah, he actually won lane, then we just lost because everyone else lost. But
That
then
doesn't sound right to me.
But then I invited him back because like, oh, it's kind of fun to play with. He just played AP Recon mid. I'm like,
Nice.
oh, those are all the things I buffed. That's cute. So it's really fun, like seeing like actual like human beings get to like play with the things I changed. Like, oh, it's really, really cool. Like they had a new experience because of like stuff that I got to have a hand in.
With going, because obviously you've always had an opinion about games, not just League of Legends, but like you play a lot of games, you're very into games.
Yeah.
Has there been anything that surprised you on the other side in terms of like the complexity, even though obviously as a caster you're like aware of it, but
Right.
have you been made more aware of like, oh, there are all of these external factors?
Sure, yeah. Like we don't have like full-time VFX art because 90% of our work doesn't have new visual effects or new sound effects or new animations or new models, whatever, which means we don't have just like a dude doing nothing for like 3 weeks and it's like, oh, we changed a particle and like has work to do again. So for example, August is working on a like slightly reshaped ult for Kale, which is gonna like change the timing and the radius and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, we need to then like get VFX from somewhere else at Riot. It's like, hey, don't do your regular job for a couple of days. Like come do this. And like, that we have to find time for that, right? So any of that kind of work just like has to then be prioritized against someone who like normally has regular stuff going on. So some amount of like internally like, okay, what should I or should I not do based on what's available? Okay, like when will we get resources? Or just the fact that like I have to learn the tools, and it's like if I want to like make Azir have a new ultimate, I have to learn how to actually make a new Azir ultimate, and like I don't know how to do that. So like that's part of it, right? And I actually personally feel like I worked better under constraints because then I just like, okay, I can work with like these 17 things out of these 700 things. It actually makes it a lot easier for me to like get stuff done and like work towards a goal. But yeah, just the amount of like, oh, resources are really important actually. And like this is just, it's very important that like, how much does your stuff touch?
Yeah, that's where like old designers are really OP because they can mock up things with temp particles so fast.
Yeah.
But at least when I was on the team, it's like it was so hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I want to have blue buff get bigger. And that took me like 6 hours to figure out.
Right. Chad, you just go in there and you find Control F size.
Yeah,
It's so proprietary, like the way you do things. But then you have someone like August who like just posts a TikTok because he made Nautilus have 7 hooks and it took him like a minute.
And it teleports Jhin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's start honing in a little bit on some of the things that you have worked on recently. For example, the patch that just came out. What were some of the goals that like your team had with this one, and then why do you love bot lane so much?
Yeah, I mean, so what's interesting is certainly, yes, I do love bot lane a lot. But so a lot of this year, right, it was, some of the directive was like, hey, we're like ranged only in support right now. And so the first half of the patch, which is like 3 weeks ago for me at this point, was like investigating, okay, what's actually happening? What's really getting played? What are the counters supposed to be? Looking at like, hey, where is damage now compared to where it was pre-durability update? And just like sort of figuring things out. And so that was a lot of investigation of sort of like what I thought the shape should be, and then it was like, okay, start putting together a change list of like what we should buff, what we shouldn't buff. Like I had a Pantheon pitch that when we like pulled from the patch, I had a worse Braum list that was like, here's some health regen. Like that's boring, pick a different list. Like, okay, W, way cooler, good job. So I like almost all these had like pretty significant changes to them and whatnot. And so a bit of like what I thought was intuitively going to be good, what wasn't going to work, and just like kind of throwing paint at the wall and seeing what stuck. Where it's like, hey, I want to buff Thresh. Thresh is nerfed by the way. I want to buff Alistar. Alistar's nerfed by the way. And it's like, okay, Pyke and Nautilus all-ins and Alistar all-ins and him able to like withstand getting poked in lane. Like these should, through various means, like, oh, these should be able to work against like Vera support or whatever, where they have no disengage tools. It's not like you have a Karma Shield or a Lulu Whimsy. It's like, if you jump on Ashe Caitlyn bot lane, what does Ashe do but die? Like she has nothing to get away except burn flash. It's like, well, if it just takes one more Hex Flash Headbutt Pulverize to kill her, Alistar's a counter pick now, right? Like, and in my world, there's probably supposed to be some mild rock, paper, scissors of like, if you have no safety tools, you should probably lose to engage tanks. If you have really, really good safety tools, if you can't beat tanks, why does your champion exist? And then, and like that can go in a circle a little bit. So that was kind of the hope of like, let's buff the like more aggressive tanks for the most part, and his Braum was kind of weak. And then being opportunistic about like what I thought was going to make character more interesting and whatnot. It's like Rakan actually has more healing, less damage, but like should overall make him like a more fun, stronger character, like a healthier character. So, and then people were okay enough with eventually the changes that like we shipped them, and there's follow up on Alistar and Thresh because they ended up getting nerfed for most people.
Yeah, what were the lists that ended up being nerfs?
So I mean, Alistar ended up because I cut his teammate healing. I'm like, hey, this guy like. Radiant Virtue, the passive, is like probably a bit too strong, but like if I have his AP ratios, like he might go Shurelya's, but like stat shards will feel better, and just Relic Shield's AP itself, he'll do more damage. Like he gets like 4 more damage via some AP ratio buffs. Like that's not a lot, but whatever. But his self heal will be like way higher. Yeah. And it's like 40% up. Yeah. But like Alistar like has to walk up and like slap a cannon minion, and it's like he's gonna get hit by like an Ezreal Q and a Karma Q, and it's like let's make this way better because he like isn't allowed to play League of Legends. And then like I lowered his teammate heal because I thought it was gonna be too much. And I'm like, nope, teammate heal is actually really, really important. So I was just getting buffed back next patch.
Cool.
And maybe we'll see him some more. I know like Showmaker's playing AP Alistar bit. I don't think it's actually good. I don't think it's actually very strong.
I love W auto procs, baby.
Yeah, no, that's never going back into the game. W auto has literally 0 counterplay. I point and click before damage. She was not
my favorite kind of game.
That was a season 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Season 4, permabanned Alistar at Worlds. Where you could
season 4, Trinity Force, top lane, Alistar. Some did Triforce Sheen. Anyway, or Triforce Shiv rather was the greedy version of the build. Yeah, so Thresh was the same boat where like I saw CoreJJ play it yesterday and he maxed W first, which is what actually all the good Threshes do.
Right.
And like W max is the least cool version of Thresh, so I'm just gonna nerf W max and like buff Q and E max. So it's like way cool as a champion, and he can be a damage champion. But people still W max, which got nerfed, so he lost win rate. I'm like, okay, let's do a better version of this. So yeah, some of the stuff was like, okay, I was trying to be really opportunistic towards like, I think this makes the character more fun. It makes them match their identity. It makes them cool characters. Lantern Bot is not the best version of Thresh. It's the everything should be Thresh. So let's move that around. So there's more stuff in 13.4 doing that. It's like, okay, well, for WMAX, it was a nerf and he lost win rate. So, okay, we go again, round 2. And just like, there was a double the changeless version of Thresh that was like, this is just getting too chaotic, cut this down. So just figuring all that out, right, and getting feedback on it.
For bot lane specifically, obviously, I'm a fan of engaged supports. As you already know, we've had conversations about this. How much thought goes into like where the importance on bot prio is coming from, right? Because I feel like we even went back, and I know Jap brought it up in talking to Vulcan about like why suddenly 2v2s were everything.
Yeah.
Part of it is the AD carry changes that went through earlier, but then a lot of it is all these other things in game, like going all the way back to the fact you can't really lane swap anymore, to the way Unleashed Teleport works now. So how much of that goes into looking at, okay, I want to buff, engage supports beyond the actual 2v2 laning process?
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's a lot that's going on there, of course. So hey, Unleashed Teleport not existing means that you can't just bail out the people who are losing to Caitlyn Lux because Malphite TP's bot lane at 6 and just double kills them. That's probably better for the game, right? I think top laners are happier where their lane is not just oh, I beat Malphite, oh, he double killed my bot lane. I got a turret plate. Right, it's just not compelling, right? You just feel bad. So it's oh, my purpose to exist is to gank bot lane with teleport is not what top laners want on average, right? Shen exists and that's great. Go be Shen, right? But that's more opt-in and then that's fine. Early dragons got buffed because action was way down and teams were just doing nothing. And we were just watching some LCK games before the games, and it's in both games one of them had 2 kills before Baron spawned, and one had 2 kills by 13 minutes, and it's teams aren't fighting over things very much. It's okay, well, Drake is powerful, fight over Drake, and First Herald has more gold on it, fight over this, right? So early priority has just meant a lot more for pro. People specifically made changes to make that the case. And if it's hard to bail them out, okay, well, now just lane prio means everything. But also junglers just can't bot lane right now. And of course, the current tuning of jungle is very gank heavy. So your goal as a jungler, your role as a jungler is do 3 camps, show up bot lane, do the same camps that part on the map, just ignore your top side, gank bot again. And it's okay, it's a little bit too much of a clown card down there, probably. So we're discussing, hey, what kind of things can junglers do in the early game that are going to be compelling and fun and not just camping bot lane? Can we make bot lane safer overall? And it's just ideas, right? But it's a bit too fiesty down there in really high elo. That would be nice to whittle that down. Certainly with the AD carry changes from 13-2, the role is very, very strong. The fact that there's a 2-on-2 lane in the first place, it's really hard for me to figure out, can League ever not have bot lane be the most important single lane? How good do mids have to be as strong as an AD carry and a support together?
Yeah.
An unacceptable level, maybe, right? So there's some amount of this, it's just always going to be true.
Yeah, there's an old CoreJJ quote I don't know if I've told you about. He's ganking top is 300 gold. Ganking bot is Nexus.
Yeah. But yeah, it's literally double the gold value, and plus you have people there to go take a Drake afterwards and whatnot. So it's that's just, I don't know, it's a hard solve, right?
Yeah,
but those are the things that exist, right? And they have to be kept in balance where people have to feel good about the champions, and there needs to be action for pro. It's important overall. There's things to fight for, and it's a lot that you have to kind of keep in mind. And I don't know the exact right answer, right? But we're certainly aware that jungle is a very gank heavy role right now, probably more so than people want it to be. And bot lane as a whole is probably a bit overpowered.
Yeah. A quick one that I have for you is mostly around because a lot of those are buffed towards those melee support champions. But we did see one nerf towards range supports, which is specifically the Umbral Glaive nerf that got hit. So more so talking about the ease of, or at least when do you choose to and what do you choose to end up landing nerfs? Because with these, you see a large sweeping buffs toward those other champions, but it feels like you guys are taking a much more intricate approach to nerfing those range supports that were taking over the meta.
Yeah, it's going to come down to sort of humans making decisions. I think realistically, if in 13-3, I was actually, we should also nerf Spell Thieves and Spectral Sickle and all this stuff. And I was my findings are that we need to give more regen to melee supports and less mana regen to range supports. Then it was okay, cool, and you get by and you go on. And 13-4 actually has that exact change for a designer who just went for round 2 on this one, basically.
Sounds good.
And yeah, it's hey, if I did maybe a better job investigating or something, but the way I did it was Nautilus has a lower cooldown and a higher shield on W, which is functionally regen when he goes to last hit. Alistar Pass literally heals him more than it did before, which is just functionally more regen, right?
Yeah.
My initial prompt was he literally has more base health regen and more level 1 health. And now it's well, your W has more armor on it. So it's well, those are, I kind of gave a bunch of tank supports more regen early game. Rakan Q heals them more, right? So all those actually existed. I did changes in that direction, but I just did them in champion kits. Maybe the better choice was actually buff Relic Shield and buff those items. Maybe it was the better version. We'll see what that pans out to be in 13-4. But yeah, it's identifying what this should look like, how sustainy should they be? Because they have too much regen, there's just no point in doing anything.
Yeah.
And they just well, it doesn't matter, I'll run out of mana, you can go too far, right? And so yeah, it's up to sort of a person deciding here's what I think is good, or if they want to ask the designers for opinions, hey, what do you think is, breaking here, right? You just get opinions and get people to kind of share what they think is the most pressing factors, right?
Yeah.
And then you get sign off and you and you get through play test and you get through any kind of validation, and then it goes live and you see what happens, you go again later. And so yeah, it's really individually driven on the amount of opinions you want to collect and then figuring out what you think the right tactics are.
Okay, so we talked a lot about bot lane.
True.
Other things happened.
Bot lane dominant.
For example, for pro play, Ssumday ate some nerfs. What was kind of the thinking going into those?
So I didn't either suggest or ship the Ssumday, so I can't speak entirely to Ezra's like POV. My recollection in conversation with him was like, hey, he's probably like way too tanky during R still. Like, it's meant to be like that, hey, I shed half my health bar, I shed my bonus resist, and I converted to AD, but like, you should be able to kill me. And he feels like, I look at his games and I'm like, I feel like he's not actually killable.
The
like,
Omni-Vamp just keeps keeping
yeah,
top
so
up,
he just like he kind of just like keeps getting top back up. I'm actually a really big fan of like tap W being weaker. Like I think that makes a lot of sense. But again, there's only so much like I have really obvious insight into. Like I'm not watching over everyone, right? So I like the direction of these changes. I think the scaling health growth thing is just like, well, okay, we can soften the blow a little bit in lower elos. Like right now he's really MMR skewed. Some of that is challenger players play more League than bronze players. So they've got more practice than bronze players do. So like, every new champ is going to have that skew to a certain degree, unless their kit is really skewed as well. You look at Aphelios in modern day, he's very flat across MMRs. Because at a certain point, if you're an Aphelios player, whether you're bronze or gold or diamond or whatever, you've got your Aphelios games and you're just like at your, kind of whatever your Western win rate is. But someone like Azir is actually still has that skew. Like his kit is just really skewed. And Ssumday, like, I don't personally know what world he's in. Someone might have a different opinion than me, and they're like, oh, he's this way or he's that way or whatever. I don't know. I don't have insight. But again, I think they were smart changes in terms of like locking down people less, which seemed good.
Cool. So we're actually going to move ahead to some of the stuff that's been going on. Have you been keeping up with the LCS, or are you just like turbo into patch?
No, I've been keeping up a bit. What's nice is I'm allowed to be biased finally.
There you go.
Before,
True.
I had to root for LCS teams, as an representative. Now I just be a fan of the best team in League of Legends, which thankfully is an LCS team still. It's kind of nice to just get to, rep, just actually be fans of who I want to be fans of.
You have Cloud9 shoes on.
I also have Cloud9 shoes on, so I'm a
hedging your bets.
Okay.
Yeah, he's hedging.
All right, just in case.
You got 1-2 in the standings.
Oh, 1-2 in the standings. Wow, who could have seen that coming?
Thinking emoji.
Yeah.
Team, send your merch.
Yeah, I still have my Dignitas hoodie in the back of the closet, just in case. Just in case.
With the round robin too.
You never know.
So we'll take a look at some of the games from yesterday. If people missed them, it's the start of Super Week, Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you did not watch them back at home, we'll go through them now, all the games, and we'll get Freak's opinion on them as well. Did you watch any of these yesterday? Or?
A good amount. I saw Dignitas through a 3,500 gold lead to Cloud9. That was rough.
This is game one, the 100 Thieves versus EG game.
This one I think I missed.
So this one was pretty, probably the game of the day. EG had upwards of a 10,000 gold lead.
Yes.
But then Jinx Azir got 6 items, and then this is how it ended.
Oh, you'll love this.
Yeah.
This is a disaster.
Oh, this is a good
the
one.
front door.
Oh,
Erickson, you can hold, right?
I saw that you get Baron, we get Nexus.
You can
meme.
stop this, right?
Yeah, and then he was such one, he's just like, I want to be here.
Just
when
defend the Nexus, Azir.
Yep.
Yeah, nice shuffle. I mean, he tried to
Don't
live.
worry, I'll
He
TP.
TP'd to a turret?
Happens. Look.
I mean, where else are you going to TP?
I don't know.
Everything's
Maybe
gone.
because of a ward. I mean, it's doomed no matter what.
Yeah, Bjergsen,
over.
if he had a ward, he should have placed it.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
At
That
that
was a fun
stage in the
one.
game, you don't have a ward.
Yeah, they're trying to make a comeback happen.
Unsurprising, another sub 30-minute fly quest win. No one's. We got Rakan though.
I was gonna say Zyra.
We got Zyra
I
Rakan.
think.
Yeah, I look at every single post-match thread in the morning on Reddit, and I'm like, what did they play in the LCK? What did they play in the I'm like, we got Rakan, we got Nautilus, let's go. We got CoreJJ Thresh. Like,
Are there alarms like in the back of your mind where you're starting to see Zyra Khan and Kaisa Nautilus a little bit?
like I really like. I don't want pure tank meta. But
Yes.
I would. Even more don't want pure range meta.
I agree with that.
I think if you play only one role, I would rather have pure melee, but like I really want a good mix.
Yes.
And in solo queue mix is pretty good. In pro, again, I want like about half tank, half range.
I did like this game from Immortals. They lost it, but it was scrappier in the early game.
Is that what you liked about it?
What? That they put up a decent fight versus FlyQuest?
There we go.
Yeah,
There we go.
that's what I was talking about. Not this specific play. I was just saying that like this game overall, for a loss against FlyQuest for Immortals, which was anticipated, I thought they had a decent showing in the early game, which I did appreciate.
This one surprised everyone but
Here's your
Raz, who
first
predicted
anti-support
COG.
sighting,
Yep.
too.
And my
Yeah.
prediction wasn't even a convincing one. I said it was week 4, week 5, and I think there's
You're
going
like-
to be an upset that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like,
Man, this was a game-winning hook by CoreJJ, but then the Gnar just decides to not kill the Aurelia.
Everyone
He goes and
just get
chases.
backline
like,
access.
yeah, look.
Don't clap.
Typical
Look.
Summit behavior.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be clear, right? At least had a really rough season.
yeah.
It's been up and down. The Annie,
Mostly down.
the Annie changes.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
are those? What you guys wanted, basically?
Strong.
Yeah, she's really strong. I think it's probably okay that Annie is overall kind of strong. I know that the guy who did the Annie update, Ray, is like, Annie sighted, and then we see her in mid now as well. He's just
every time.
She was played in LCK.
I know.
This was hotfix nerfed as well, so it is.
Yeah, this is much like her patch. Yeah, she's like relatively strong. She's gonna have really high winner in solo queue because it turns out if her like a lot of her good or bad check is, are you in range of me? Are you not in range of me?
Yeah.
And the top 8 most played champs in solo queue are all melee, so it turns out they're in range of her. And Tibbers and Incinerate go through wind wall, so she's like, yeah, we're pretty happy with this one. So she's gonna have like probably a baseline really high solo queue win rate, and that's fine. I mean, long term, she ends up being 100% pick ban and pro, like she's too strong then, but hopefully, like she's a healthy addition to the game. I think she's a cool champion.
And everybody on Dig is dead.
Yeah, this is the game that you were talking about, Freak.
They had a decent lead before this.
Yes, the early game was nice.
It was one of their best so far. They had the possible momentum, but then got away from them in this like really scrappy mid fight that was going down. Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was cool to see Gnar bring out the Nautilus.
Yeah.
Like
back,
obviously,
baby.
he's always going to be more comfortable on engaged supports anyway. That's kind of what we're expecting of him. But we already had some Nautilus sightings previously, and I think, to your point, we'll be seeing him more in pros.
Yeah, he's like the number 10 pro support before the changes. At least last I looked at the data, it's like.
I mean, you're never going to get the LPL to give up Nautilus.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's no matter how bad he is.
True.
Ming's hoping, you know.
Yeah.
Just get off Enchantress finally.
Final game of the day was TSM versus Golden Guardians. It was a Golden
really
Guardians
good.
win.
They're looking really good, Golden Guardians in particular. And Gory, the fact that he's able to play as well as he is, with such little practice time with the team too, this was the play, I think, where he gets like a 3-man Yone ulti.
Yeah, this was sick. I gotta give heads up to Stixay as well. He's been playing very good.
Yeah.
AD carry centric meta, which in the pro, it's like if you have good AD carry, your team good, not bad. And
Stixay good.
Stixay has been good, yeah.
Happy to see. Yeah, I've been a fan of him for like basically ever, and I'm, you know, a bit of a Golden Guardians homer, so it's nice to see them do really well. It's a nice ulti.
Nice.
Ooh, yep, R into Q3.
Beautiful.
He is chasing down with Azir.
I'm excited for this team. I mean, for both teams. I think TSM, of course, taking a loss here, but I feel like they've been much, much better than a lot of our expectations. Same with Golden Guardians. So, like, at least for both these teams, we're seeing like a great level of growth.
Yeah, TSM decides to scale every game, which is actually not that bad.
I don't hate it.
It seems fine. No one's expecting them to win the league, so just win as many games as you can, and scaling's the way to do it.
Yeah, it feels a little worse when it's like this is your best team and they always approach with scaling.
Yeah,
just
the
like,
NA scaling special.
Yeah, but it feels different if it's like a middle of the pack team scrapping for wins versus like a top team that should be pushing their boundaries more.
Yeah.
So that's where we get to today's schedule. You can see it top to bottom there. I also heard in Twitch chat, Papa Smithy was saying, hey, you look really good for some reason, Freak, with your jersey you have.
Yeah, he's also a little biased, I think.
Yeah, definitely a little biased. That's not till game 4, though. Before that, we have probably the best game of the day, Evil Geniuses versus Team Liquid, then C9 versus Immortals, CLG versus 100 Thieves, then that TSM versus FlyQuest game, and Golden Guardians versus Dignitas to round out the day. Anything that you are particularly excited about there?
I'd like to see Dig get their first win. I think that just, you know, I don't want to see a team go 0-18, so fingers crossed they find one somewhere.
And I'm excited to see, I mean, for me, Team Liquid. First game of the day versus Evil Geniuses, and like the one person we already talked about was Summit, who consistently nails down laning phase. It's literally just past that, and also just their team's overall team fighting. And that's the one thing I want to get nailed down, so I really want to see it, because I feel like there's going to be that 1 week where it clicks. So I don't know if they're praying that this is the game.
I hope so, because I mean, that loss to CLG yesterday, I think, was a bit of a breaking point a little bit for a lot of the fans to be like, okay, you guys have higher expectations. You have a world champion on your roster.
Yeah, and they have like 2 more hard games. So if they go 0-3 this weekend, they're like 3-6.
Yeah.
Robin, that's not good.
That's very sketchy. Anyways, thank you, Freaks, so much for joining us. That was a very insightful patch. We have more stuff for you today, so don't leave completely. But I think we will be sending you off, and we'll see you later in the show. And under that, before though, we have something about Jat for this first matchup between EG and Team Liquid.
Something about Jat.
Something about Jat.
What about Jat?
Something's going on with it.
What's going on?
Haeri is going to be better than Jojopyun. Because Jojopyun, if you look at their academy stats, was actually far less prolific than Haeri in the academy system. He won back-to-back proving grounds. People were hyping Jojopyun because he did okay in academy in 2021 and led the league in deaths. I led mid laners in kills, didn't die nearly as much. There's no reason I shouldn't be getting hype.
Okay, so
all right.
Got a problem with what I said?
I don't have a problem, but you've been pushing this Jojo versus Haeri narrative for a long time, and I don't know if anyone has bought in yet. So we're gonna bring up Twitch chat to spam if Jat is unhinged or based for suggesting Haeri over Jojopyun.
Listen,
Okay.
there was a propaganda machine last year for JoJo, and it was accurate.
So this one's for Haeri?
But
Now
like,
you're the inaccurate.
listen. People are trying to compare them head to head. I went and looked at their first 7 LCS games.
Okay.
And remember,
Okay.
JoJo had like Impact being the perfect frontliner, and he had Vulcan, Danny, team fighting, and all this stuff. And Haeri, someone's running it down sometimes,
An MVP top lane.
right? Core's not able to play engagers, and he actually has better numbers than JoJo. Yet
Just for
no
the
one.
first 7 career games.
This was like the first 7 of JoJo's Spring last year,
Yeah.
and the first 7 of Haeri now. And like, sure, he's not a world beater, but come on, man.
These stats are really picked
I don't know what
out.
Twitch chat's spamming.
They're
but-
what? They're what, guys?
You specifically picked this out.
Oh
for
yeah,
your
because no
own
one ever talks about
agenda.
CSD and damage.
Kill percentage.
Yeah, those are
Whoever
real
talks about
cherry
kill
picked.
percentage. That's
Okay,
extremely
that's
What else
one.
do you have for us, Jack?
Kill percentage
I was
isn't even in there. What are you
wondering if they
talking
were gonna
about?
bring up these stats.
You,
'cause I
yeah,
pulled
because
a
you
bunch of
plucked it up
stats
from the
based on
last graphic.
Yeah.
Where was kill percentage?
It was in the last graphic.
I didn't make that graphic. Look at this one. Okay, that's this year.
What?
Wait, yeah, it's way better for
it's
JoJo.
JoJo.
Well, yeah, because he's got a year of experience. Come on,
my
man.
God.
Didn't you?
Come back to this in 2024, and we're gonna see the right on the left.
Yeah,
He's
You're
gonna-
making
Give him time.
your own grave. You're literally
Yeah.
digging yourself deeper.
I'm just saying.
And a lot of
Harry's
these.
fine. Don't be blaming Haeri for all their problems.
I don't think anyone is. Are they?
I've heard some things.
Some people are throwing a lot of strays all over the place at Team Liquid.
Just
True.
give it some time. There's no rush.
I want to make it clear you're comparing him to JoJo.
Well,
Yeah.
To
we'll,
JoJo
Yeah.
last year.
we'll take a look
Which
at
was
Twitch
comparable.
chat. Does Twitch chat agree? Do we have the results of the poll, unhinged or based?
Yeah.
I'm interested in this one.
Yeah.
Wait, it is surprisingly
That's
close.
So-
close.
That's all I'm asking.
I want to know how
They're
much
giving
of
him a
it
chance.
is that it's easier to type in based than unhinged.
Oh, yeah, that's probably the majority.
I think there's also
I'll
like an
take it.
element that people want to just watch the world burn, you know? And so
True.
they're like,
Yeah, a
yeah,
little
Haeri over JoJo. Let's spin that narrative up. Yeah.
A little bit.
I'm not saying he's better than JoJo now.
Okay, then what are you saying?
That his first 7 games are comparable to JoJo's first 7 games.
Okay.
So he's got the chance to be better than him in the future.
All right.
Okay.
We're open.
Hot take. I guess Twitch chat liked it. We're
Yeah.
gonna move
Yeah.
ahead though
We
to
got a
predictions.
40%.
See if anyone has predicted any upsets. If Raz did it again, or if we're all bored. Oh! The cursed analysts all agree
That
today.
is rough.
Wow.
Okay.
Wait, the last time I feel like this happened, we got it wrong.
Yeah,
wait.
we got like 3 of the games wrong, I think.
Jat, where's your Team Liquid prediction?
Oh, dude, that hasn't been going well.
TL Jat, you're
I
just
gotta take a
gassing
break
Haeri
from
up.
that. I gotta take a break from those TL predictions.
So you believe in Haeri up until the point where you need to make predictions.
Ask me again in 2024.
You don't believe in his, you don't
Alright,
believe in his
sounds good.
teammates. You believe in Haeri.
Yeah.
Yeah, that core
It's
JJ
like,
guy.
You know how LeBron was constantly tweeting, like, I need some help? Like,
Yes.
Harry's thinking about some emoji tweets.
He's one of the greatest
Oh,
of all
yeah, the-
time.
I guess it's me. Like, that could be coming
Looking
out
emoji,
tomorrow.
crown.
Yeah. You never know.
What else would
wild.
you guys, since we're all in the same boat, what do you think is the biggest chance for upsets? Is it just game 1 with Team Liquid, or do you have anyone else that can potentially pull an upset off the win
I
there?
think that game 1 for sure, and game 5 has interest.
Yeah, I say game 5, and I would say CLG because
Yeah.
they've been surprising me lately.
Like,
But I'm not going to say CLG.
I certainly don't have the faith in CLG, but I feel like if they upset 100 Thieves, I wouldn't be like completely floored because I can see a roadmap.
They're a bit of a
that
loose
happening.
cannon, and their drafts
Yeah.
are weird, so sometimes that into their game, sometimes it gets them a win. We'll have to see. That's game 3. But first, we have EG versus Team Liquid. Let's send it out to the casters to get us in the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the LCS Spring 2023, and it's Super Week here for day number 2 of our 3-day epic battle between all the teams to finish out the first round robin. I'm CaptainFlowers, that's Azael. We'll be bringing you the first 3 games, first of which today we got Evil Geniuses going up against Team Liquid.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I'm really excited for this. You know, TL obviously coming off of a loss yesterday, but they have shown some really strong games. Yep. EG, I think, has been looking kind of better and better. You know, they're sitting at 5-2 right now. Their only losses, the one early game loss that they had to CLG early on in the season where they got way ahead and then kind of got outscaled. And their only other loss was to FlyQuest, who has been just dominating the league. So
that's just a freebie at this point.
Exactly.
Like, lost to FlyQuest. All right, everybody loses one.
Come on. I mean,
yeah.
on that team. What are you going to do? But EG has been looking really, really good. So I think this is going to be a big challenge for TL, but one that they need to be able to kind of rise to the occasion for because they are a team that is expected to be up towards the top of the table, and a loss here with the 3-5.
And I mean, they're kind of falling short of, I think, a lot of people's expectations. Obviously, the roster had to be rebuilt after last year and sort of that super team that failed to make Worlds and didn't live up to the expectations. Huge amount of rebuilding here in the org, here with the roster, but still not quite where everybody's expecting them to be. I'm going to go ahead and go on record because I believe that it's important to get out there before the game starts. I think Jad is cringe. I'm just going to say I think
just
Jojo.
Blanket statement.
Yes. Jad is cringe. Jojo has the edge, I believe, in the mid lane matchup here in this game. I think that he and Inspired remain one of the most important weapons in the EG arsenal for being able to find the wins here. So let's go ahead and get into the draft. It's Kindred, it's Varus, it's Jax, banned out by EG, Ashe, Elise, and Renekton banned out by TL. First pick Maokai on EG surprises no one.
Yep, absolutely not. Caitlyn coming through, so you're almost guaranteeing that it's going to be Caitlyn Lux for TL. Going to be looking for that really heavily pushing bot lane in the 2v2. Yeon and CoreJJ, I think, have been pretty strong in the 2v2. You know, I think that has been one of their kind of shining points here on the side of TL. But when you talk about that mid lane, we talk about Jojo versus Haeri, people are going to be quick to point out some of the mistakes that Jojo is making outside of lane, some of these silly deaths that he has been having, and those are really undeniable. But his prowess in lane is still something to really be reckoned with. He's such a strong 1v1 player. It can be very, very difficult going up against him. And sometimes, even if he gives up a death to a gank, he'll end up way ahead in that 1v1.
I mean, I was very critical of Jojo in week 1, and I stand by that because I think that he had a lot of mistakes, but his laning phase wasn't really the source of those, like what you're saying. He's still able to always be that sort of rock there in the middle. But we've got the Karma, and we've got the Jayce locked in here in the first half of the draft for Evil Geniuses. They pick up the Karma to guarantee some push back against the power of the Caitlyn Lux, but they don't want to lock in the AD carry just yet. They'd rather have priority over that Jayce in the top side.
How are you liking that 0% win rate for Jayce so far?
It's North America. What were you expecting?
I feel like it has looked especially bad this
We have this meme for what, like 8 years now? Like ever since Jayce existed, dude.
Man, it's just one of those champions. I feel like it's such a scrim champion in NA where people bring it out in scrims. You know, they run over people in laning phase. You know, they get far ahead. It does have better scaling, I think, than it used to. So, like, that is fair to talk about. But it does feel really hard to push the game forward in a lot of ways when you compare it to some of the other champions that kind of fit in that same role. You know, he's not really an engaged champion. He's not really, like, an all-in champion. He, like, kind of has to poke and prod and then, you know, push you out in sides and try to, like, you know, just whittle away advantages, which can be really, really difficult to do, I think. And so many people have just been going towards these super tank answers. We've seen Sion multiple times into Jayce, and even if you get ahead, as we saw, Armut got actually quite a ways ahead over Fudge's Sion yesterday. It was still really hard for him to have a big impact on those team fights. Obviously, Dickendust made some mistakes, but I'm just going to be interested to see what EG can get done with this.
I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Sion be the last ban here from Evil Geniuses. One thing that I am liking, what we saw yesterday with patch 13.3 coming out compared to when we were on 13.1, is the fact that it's not just always bot lane plus jungle in the first half. We are seeing a couple deviations from that now. This draft being asymmetrical thus far. Ezreal and Zeri banned out by TL in second half, trying to keep away 2 of those priority AD carries to want to pair with the Karma.
Yeah, absolutely, right? You know, they did leave their ADs to the second half of the draft, which is a little bit more atypical. There are still options available, but Caitlyn Lux is one of those premier bot lanes, and you're going to be pushed pretty far down the pecking order here. They are not banning out the Sion. I wonder if this is just like, you have Summit, he's not going to play a tank.
Okay, yeah, that could just be the call here. It's like, okay, there's some players who are willing to do this. There's a lot of players willing to do this. Summit
may not be one of them.
That Venn diagram is 2 separate circles. It's not happening. So let's see exactly how TL wants to go about this. I would expect them to, ooh, hold on now.
I've been seeing
some
a
Jarvan
little bit
action?
of Jarvan top as well. So there is actually some possibilities of this being J4 top or jungle.
I saw Lorem actually tweeting about it the other day, saying the recent adjustments to Jarvan, the recent buffs, do make him feel better in top lane. He said, if I'm remembering Alorem's tweet correctly, and Alorem, sorry if I'm mixing anything up here, I believe he said that the scariest matchup in his experience was Jax, and that Jarvan's damage still feels a little on the low side. So still looking for some of that engage power, some of that frontline bruiser potential from him here, but it shouldn't be one-shot city or anything, especially when you have a champion like Karma to protect everybody.
With Jhin Jayce, like that is begging TL to pick a tank.
Yeah.
I feel like if somebody doesn't pick a big beefy tank up in the top lane, I think that is a mistake. Both Jhin and Jayce really do struggle to actually punch through that front line. Yes, they could draft a really high damage mage from mid lane to try to kind of augment that a little bit, but I do think still, EG's composition is very low sustained damage right now. So it is going to be mid lane Jayce, it's going to be Fiora top. So that is going to be the way to say you can't pick a tank. Because otherwise you would be kind of self-counter-picking, even though it's good into the composition. It's basically full AD. Yeah, there's Karma. Karma's going to be able to support him. Yeah, there's Maokai. I don't care if Maokai builds Demonic Embrace. That's not killing a tank. There's some true damage from Fiora, and then it is just kind of frontline damage. So I honestly still think if he was really comfortable doing it, something that can play that front line
Okay,
is
we're
going to
gonna
be
get
strong.
Yeah, Summit just gonna lock in the classic Gnar, who is also currently on a 0%. Battle of the 0% solo.
Someone must win.
This Thursday, 0% champion.
Two
has
terrible
to be more than
champions enter.
0% by the end of the match.
Both champions are garbage, but one champion must win.
One of them's getting taken straight to the dog. Dong. So we've got the Gnar versus Fiora up there on the top side. Nobody's surprised to see Summit picking the Gnar. It does mean that we are not getting the top lane Jarvan this time around. It will be piloted by Pyosik there in the jungle. Jarvan versus Maokai. One thing I always watch, Isaac, with Jarvan players, what are you going to do at level 2? Because Jarvan is one of the best level 2 gankers, if not the best level 2 ganker in the game of League of Legends.
Absolutely. If it's a level 3 gank bot meta, why wait for level 3? Play Jarvan now. Only one man can do red buff and then go bot.
And that man is also a man who is currently a world champion and has been having, honestly, a rough first couple of weeks here in North America. Pyosik's had some moments. There were a couple of the Baron situations here in North America that reminded us of the Barons during the World Championship that were stolen away by Gumayushi arrows and similar problems. So I think a lot of people, a lot of Team Liquid fans are looking for Pyosik to step up and be able to have some more solid performances here in the jungle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those situations where I don't think that he has been bad by any means, but when you have a reigning world champion coming fresh off that, you're expecting this guy to dominate, right? And he hasn't brought that level that I think a lot of people were hoping for. I always love the pre-game banter here.
We got some banter.
Jojo is just always talking. Just immediately, Haeri is here, oh my god. And then the first response immediately from Yeon is muted Jojopyun. Jojo's like, I'm in your head?
Yeah, Jojo, he never stops talking, man. Love him or hate him for it, he's always going to be an entertainer. Let's see how everybody wants to start this one off here. Looks like we're not going to get much at level 1. Couple of wards placed down, just kind of keeping an eye on everything. Yep. Caitlyn Lux, always one of those lanes that, remember, especially with a powerful ganker like Jarvan, if you can get down there and get these guys rolling, it's scary stuff.
Absolutely. And while, Gnar is not like a super tank by any means, we could still see Summit just go Mythic into full tank, right?
Yeah.
And J4 can do the same thing as well. J4 could just go full on tank. I think it would actually be really smart. Yes, we know that Fiora has true damage. Yes, Fiora can theoretically kind of chunk you out in a fight, but it's very, very difficult for Fiora to just be focusing a frontliner in a team fight that you actually win. And Jayce and Jhin really are going to struggle with that armor. So Ssumday is trying to do this invade. We actually saw Fudge do a long time ago, but because he's actually getting a leash, he's not really going to be able to make it happen. He may poke away at them a little bit, but it does get dicey because he's got to leave before level 2 comes, or he's just going to get jumped on and die. So gets a little bit of annoyance down there on Summit, but at the end of the day, it really didn't amount to anything.
I mean, their health bars have about the same amount of damage in them, right? Like 75 HP to either one. Meanwhile, bottom side, Yeon at 200 HP here on the Caitlyn, FBI, and Vulcan trading back and forth here with these guys. The Caitlyn Lux does have the push.
Yeah, FBI was able to get the 4th shot down there, and that's something you never want to allow that Jhin to do. You got both the grenade bounce and the 4th shot. Generally speaking, when that 4th bullet is ready, people just back it up and try to force him to either reload or use it on a minion. So they're not able to do that. We'll see where Pyosik wants to go, as he did go red. He did go up in just full topside clear. So is he going to look for a level 3 gank, or is it just going to be a full clear down towards bot? For now, it looks like he's just going to continue that clear on, and Ssumday just trying to trade aggressively here. Every time you have that grasp ready on Fiora, you Q forward, you pop the grasp, and you just look for these little pokes and prods against the Gnar constantly.
Whenever he's in that mini form, the defense is very similar to any other ranged champion. He doesn't feel too sturdy. So as long as Ssumday can keep doing those small trades, he'll be doing all right. You can see a lot of the lane states are pretty equalized here in the middle. Obviously, you can see a couple minion advantages everywhere. But with everybody still being in the middle, it means junglers kind of have options with where they want to go right now, how they want to set things up. Scuttle Crabs, of course, coming up soon means that they could just also wait and go the farming route.
Something we also didn't really touch on is the fact that Ssumday actually spotted where J4 was and knows that he's clearing top to bot, means he can actually play this lane very aggressively. He didn't have to play with any respect to the fact that Jarvan could be doing an early gank top, right? He knew exactly where he was, he knew where he was going, so he's just playing in the face of Summit, and he actually forced that jump out from Summit defensively. So with that on cooldown, they're going to try to threaten the dive here. They know that Gnar E is such a long cooldown at level 1. It's just coming back up now, but he needs to wait for Pyosik before he can actually walk up to the tower. This could be a bit dicey.
He had to stay all the way back from cannon, so he's going to miss out on that one. Does get back in range to pick up the melee minion. Should be able to take care of most of these ranged as well. But Inspired just utilizing the power of jungle to not necessarily even complete a gank, get any damage on the enemy player, but just force him back, build advantages passive.
Yeah, exactly. He maybe misses a minion or two, lose a little bit of experience, but if Pyosik wasn't there, he would have actually lost the full wave, right? So it's another one of those situations where you're saying, I'm going to force you to make the correct play.
That was, I think, like a 1 second smite cooldown difference.
Yeah.
Inspired and Pyosik were both ticking down, and I believe Inspired got it a split second faster.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to check. I think you're right. Pyosik didn't quite have it. Now they're going to go in on bot lane.
He's got CoreJJ trying to escape, but Vulcan can get the root, and now with the extra damage pulling in, surely they get first blood. The credit goes over to Vulcan as FBI backs away. Yeon doesn't have any mana to continue following, but Pyosik's coming around from the flank. Evil Geniuses, they have no summoner spells on that Jhin. There should be no way out of this here for FBI. Vulcan's gonna just try to keep Pyosik away, but there should be no way for that to happen. Yeon gets the kill, making a 1-for-1 here in bot lane.
Yeah, good pathing for Pyosik, covers top, then gets all the way down to bot to at least get something back, because that would have been really bad if they just get that kill uncontested, but now gonna go for Summit.
Ooh, flash into the twisted advance, immediately ready for the knockback. Riposte doesn't hit, but it doesn't need to. Ssumday gets the kill.
Yeah, they get the kill and they get the flash off Summit. That is really bad on the top side, and despite the fact that Pyosik gets one back for Yeon, it's honestly a lot worse for TL. CoreJJ here going to try to come in and actually interrupt the recall potentially, but not going to be in time to do it. So it's Jojo that's actually going to TP up towards top. Or no, excuse me. I thought I saw him TPing at the same time, but they were both TPing at the same time from base. So yeah, I was looking like a lane swap there for a second, which was really confusing me.
Just be like,
it's like, but why?
That's a little bizarre.
Yeah. My Fiora has a kill. Time to absolutely screw it over by putting it against Azir.
Make him play against Azir. He never hit for any reason. Well, luckily that is not the case for the way things are going. We still have about an 800 gold lead here for EG nice and early. Summit on this Gnar. Like you're saying, without the flash, things become a struggle, especially with them nearing the level 6 point. Once Ssumday gets the ability to issue the grand challenge, it can become a big concern for many Gnar to be able to get away from.
Absolutely, and when you get that early Sheen plus longsword, his buy is much better. That Q poke becomes very, very dangerous. You're getting the Sheen proc, plus the vital hit, plus the grasp. It all starts to stack up and become a lot of damage. With Pyosik down bot, great reaction from Vulcan as he swept him out and did spot him coming in there, and that quick backstep kept him safe.
Immediately able to react, feels good for the side of Evil Geniuses. Meanwhile, top side, Ssumday versus Summit 1v1. It's Summit getting the edge. Ssumday has to get back away. Only 200 HP left. No charges on that refillable potion means it's likely back to the base for him.
He's got the fruit. He's got the bailout.
Oh,
that's
the honey fruit.
That's
okay.
the top laner dream.
Honey fruit's there.
Or a nightmare, honestly. It's super tilting when you chunk someone out and then they just go into the lane. They come right back. They have that honey fruit, but it is going to be this fight around that dragon. Getting pretty low.
4v4. CoreJJ and Yeon got to be careful here. Pyosik comes. Whoa! Beautiful engage from Team Liquid. But will it be enough? It'll be a 1-for-1 here at the start. Pyosik tanking the Drake. Inspired and Jojo getting themselves back. Vulcan stands and fights against the Caitlyn. The Ignite's coming out. The auto attacks. Vulcan just kills them. And Evil Geniuses now want a little bit more. Vulcan's going to force him back over the wall. The Chad Karma just says, get the hell out of my river.
Nicely done by EG. Vulcan's just going to keep
He's
chasing.
not done. He's not done.
that's actually so bad, delaying the base there so long. Look, there's no one even coming. You know, you look at the mini-map, at the bot lane, are they gonna have to cover mid? They're heading right down towards bot, so Jayce is unopposed going up towards mid lane, and that's why Vulcan was spending that extra time delaying the bases. This is gonna mean more plates for Jojo mid. He's probably gonna get 2 plates. I wouldn't be surprised to see off of mid lane just from those interruptions on the base. So really nicely done. It was a great engage initially from Pyosik, but they just didn't have the follow-up damage. And Jayce was able to get so much more done in that extended fight.
Props to Vulcan, man. That's the kind of stuff you love to see out of your support. I mean, you're never going to make those montage plays with support, racking up pentakills or anything, but these are the sort of advantages that build up into those pentakills for your team later.
I mean, this was beautiful, though. As soon as they stack up, he gets the EQ flash, knocks up both the carries. They get the kill onto FBI, but Jojo gets out of there, knocks down CoreJJ, and then all of a sudden, it's Yeon that's kind of segmented. He's trying to push past and ignore Vulcan, but Vulcan is not to be messed with here. Early on, Karma is a beast. Able to just straight up take him down, and then Haeri getting pushed back, gets hit with the shock blast, has to get out of there. And Vulcan knows you're looking for a recall. You're both going to be trying to get out of there. I'm just going to push forward, delay those recalls, get ourselves the plate mid lane. It is just the 1 plate, not the 2 that went down, but still, really nice.
They try to step forward onto Yeon and Core, but Vulcan really screwed that one up. Nice punish from the Team Liquid bottom lane duo. Curtain call opens. Yeon should be able to block these. Ends up costing most of his health bar, but no return kill for EG.
Yeah, well, Haeri in some trouble here. Jojo just stepping forward, confident, sees the jungler, but doesn't really care. Yeah, as soon as we comment Vulcan steps on the trap there, lost track of that, and once you get hit by any CC in this Caitlyn Lux matchup, the CC never ends. Inspired, though, has flash, and he could look for Haeri, because Haeri has no flash, remember.
Haeri should, I believe, have the E ready to go to dash back underneath his own turret. It is one of those problems with Maokai because Twisted Advance will follow no matter what.
Yeah.
If your opponent can get underneath the turret, you can be dragged under there with them.
It's just interesting because Inspired has ult. If you have Shock Blast ready, there's no flash, there's no ulti on Haeri. They know that. So even if you get pulled under the tower, I wonder, does he just die, right? Because it's a guaranteed Shock Blast hit. It's the full combo from the Maokai. It's the Maokai ulti. I think they might have had that lethal, but we know no one else was around. They didn't know that. So if someone's behind him, then you're gonna die. So that's obviously why they're being a little bit cautious.
Right? Yeah, you've always got to consider, could this just be where we throw away the lead that we've been working to build for the last 10 minutes, and you don't want to make that mistake. We do have a contest over the Herald. Remember, we had a fight for the Drake. It ended up being nobody takes it. Let's see if anybody walks away with this objective. Herald at about half HP. Patience starting to run out pretty rapidly now. Inspired's going to fire off the ulti. Herald's going to partially reset. They end up getting the lockdown onto Pyosik, who now has to run away. 300 HP left for the Jarvan. Means your jungler doesn't have a lot of faith to be able to get in and get back out. So EG secure the Herald for themselves. Meanwhile, in bottom lane, the 1v1. FBI counts to 4. Yeon hits the floor.
Oh my god, trading flashes, getting that solo kill is massive. It's going to be another plate, so it's basically a kill and a half plus the CS that he gains and denies from Yeon. That is massive. Now Summit's in some trouble. The ulti's been popped.
We don't have all of those vitals procced yet, though. Ssumday cannot get the final one. Ssumday doing a good job hiding against the wall, protecting that vital, so Sumday's not able to get the heal. Inspired is going to chase him back. Meanwhile, mid lane, Team Liquid brings more dudes to the party, and they end up getting a 3v2 kill onto Jojopyun.
Summit can win this.
Summit trying to get back away now as Vulcan's going to show up. He's coming up the river, has to flash over the wall, knows there was no way out of that one. So Team Liquid doing a good job finding a kill back in mid lane and finding some summoner spells here on the top side.
Yeah, this is that strength that Summit can showcase in the lane, despite the fact that he's been focused on. He's up 20 CS, despite the fact that he was ganked, the fact that he was killed, the kill went to his lane opponent. He's just straight up outlaning Ssumday in that 1v1, getting advantages despite everything. You know, pushes him back, gets him chunked so low, denies the access to that 4th vital, so they couldn't actually get that final proc and the heal from that ulti. And then Inspired can't 1v1 this guy. There's just no shot with him in Mega. So he segments that fight, you know, wins the 1v1 against Ssumday, then wins the 1v1 against Inspired. Sure, he doesn't kill them, but just straight up fights his way out of it. Really, really well done.
Nice stuff from Team Liquid, making sure that they're not allowing their opponents to build the lead up any further. We've seen this advantage that EG has undulate back and forth between, like, what, plus 900, plus 1500 for the past little while now. So it's not getting to be this thing that they can build more and more and more on the back of. 12 minutes into the game, Isaac, we still don't have a first Drake taken, so it's not like that's going to be a win condition for either team in any sort of reasonable amount of time this game either.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, right? And I don't think that there's any really clear scaling advantage on either side. Like, sure, there's Azir on one team. That's great. You know, you're going to outscale the Jayce, but Fiora is a monster in the side lane. You know, Maokai, I think, scales really well compared to the Jarvan. So I think overall, it's just going to be different strengths and weaknesses and down really to execution. EG wants to play much more heavily through side lanes. Their 1-3-1 is really, really strong. So we're going to have to see if they can kind of exert their will on the map with that. Because as you said, no dragons taken. You know, not only does it not mean it's a sole win condition is off the table, it also means you don't have that tool to draw the team that wants to play side lanes into a 5v5, right? So
There's no pressure.
Yeah, EG has so much time to actually play with that. And Ssumday, again and again, not able to connect on those parries. And if you miss the parry, you don't have that slow, plus the attack speed slow. So he's just going to be able to chase you down afterwards and get that really winning trade. And it's now a 30 CS advantage up in top lane. It's just getting worse.
I mean, that's the only CS difference in the game that really actually matters, right? Mid lane is about a wave and a half. Bottom lane's about a wave. Jungle's one camp. And then top lane is just this massive gap between the two. Summit building up that lead over his opponent, making it so, honestly, the only gold difference between these two teams now is the one kill, that 300 gold's worth that EG has because of their 5 versus 4 scoreline.
And this is also really interesting when you take a look at FBI's build. He's going for a Muramana, which is not something that I've seen a lot of. So it's going to be like a full lethality style build, I guess. I'm assuming he's going to be going towards Eclipse or something along those lines, and just playing for, you know, more of that bursty style. I don't know if it's just going to be like Eclipse into Muramana and then a rapid fire and really looking for that kind of upfront burst. But this is not something I've been seeing a lot of. And, you know, even looking at solo queue data, there's still enormously more Gale Force than everything else.
Well, it could have something to do with, if I'm trying to reason it out.
Squishy members.
Yeah, when you look at the enemy team, you've got entirely squishy mid and bottom lane. Pyosik on a bruiser jungler isn't generally going to have the economy to become a brick wall.
Yeah.
And Summit doesn't play tank build Gnar. He's just going to build like Black Cleavers and stuff. So
yeah,
I guess if there's a team to build lethality into, I would think that this is probably the one. Herald's going to be summoned up here in the mid lane. They get the charge, but nothing more. It is 14 minutes and 15 seconds into the game, so no place to be earned from that.
I mean, it is going to make the initial moments of a fight really, really scary for TL, because when you're thinking it through, it's AP Maokai, you know, there's going to be a lot of poke, a lot of lethality that's built up on the Jayce, lethality on this Jhin as well. You throw out the Maokai ultimate, you know, that's going to be locking people down, grouping people up. It guarantees the Shock Blast should hit. It guarantees the Jhin ults are going to be coming through and actually following up there. So potentially just looking for this really kind of powerful opening moments of the fight. And if someone like the Caitlyn or the Lux or the Azir ever gets tagged by that, you are going to get roasted.
You are done immediately. We're seeing first turrets just about ready to drop across the map here. Mid lane FBI nearly got it, but wasn't quite able to secure it. Top side, you can see Summit working to get that first turret here for his team, and I do believe that should do it. Team Liquid gets first turret there in the top lane, while Jojo should be able to get one back here in a couple of seconds. Bottom lane, tier 1 right there on your screen, just trying to let it eat as many minions as it can before he kills it off. Inspire's gonna walk through for some local gold, so that'll equalize those. Back in mid lane, FBI was not able to collect that final hit on the tier 1 turret as Team Liquid pushed him back just in time. Gold difference of 99. We got ourselves a close one, man.
Yes, sir. And it is Ghostblade first item, but he did build another serrated Dirk, so it still could be going towards an Eclipse, a Duskblade, something like that. You know, but really prioritizing the move speed, which I think makes sense when you're thinking about things like the Caitlyn, like the Lux. You know, that is a lot of things, skill shots that you can dodge, plus Swifty boots.
Yeah.
The back steps as well. You know, if you see that J4 moving forward are going to be really, really quick coming through here from FBI. So we'll see what he can really get done with this. But they want to push up mid. Nice little poke there on Yeon.
Oh, Yeon getting caught, having to use the cleanse to get away from Deadly Flourish. FBI, they eat the ace in the hole for him. Curtain call opens up. Looking for Yeon. He wants to try to weave this in there. They get out of the range in time. Yeon and CoreJJ both stay alive. Shock Blast at the very end, getting Yeon very close to death. The tier 1 turret is finally felled by EG.
But that's that combo I'm talking about. It creates this havoc, right? You know, because in a normal situation, Core wouldn't have had to flash, but if the Maokai ult connects to him, then he's locked in for that 3rd and 4th shot from that Jhin ulti, and he is sure to die. FBI was very, very low, but grabs the Honey Fruit. So again, they're back here over on the Herald, looking to start this up, but Core and Pyosik are in the area, and Haeri's coming.
Pyosik's ready to contest this. Summit's also nearby, ready to go. The Gnar with the Trinity Force completed. Fiora also has a Sunderer, but she's on the other end of the map. Unleashed Teleport just now becoming available there for Ssumday if EG decides they want to go all the way in for this. Smite's used, but it's going to be Team Liquid getting the Herald this time. Shock Blast hits Haeri, but it's not like the fight's going to go anywhere.
So they do lose the Herald, but they're trading for that bot pressure. We'll see. Can EG actually hard shove mid, try to keep someone from being able to respond quickly to that bottom side? Because at the very least, EG would like to buy some time here for the Fiora to get that push, potentially deny some minions. But Haeri's going to be able to get down towards bot with plenty of time. And you could see the path he took. He wasn't going to risk anything that there was a trap being laid. So he actually walked all the way around like this instead of walking that more dangerous path that a lot of people would do. He knows it's dark and scary down there, so doesn't want to risk giving over a freebie.
Absolutely not. Not when the game has been this close back and forth. That first Infernal Drake did go over to EG 2 minutes before our second Drake of the game spawns. We also still have about 3 minutes left on the timer for Pyosik having that Eye of the Herald, seeing if Team Liquid can acquire anything else with it. There's still that tier 1 turret standing mid for EG. Hasn't taken a whole lot of damage either, so you can't just do a drive-by with the Herald and take it for free.
Yep. And one thing that they're going to have to contend with potentially later is the fact that EG's team has really poor wave clear. So if you ever actually start to fall behind and TL are in those situations where they can actually group and push, the only way EG keeps TL away from their towers is by threatening all in. It's by saying, if you step up, we'll engage on you and we'll kill you, right? If they ever fall behind, they give up a Baron, or they're even just not in a position where they can engage, all of a sudden, Caitlyn, Lux, Azir start stepping forward, start outranging you, start really chipping away at these turrets. The minions can become a little bit overwhelming because you look at Fiora, Jayce, Jhin, none of these champions are really doing much to clear out these minion waves.
The tier just about at the halfway point here for FBI on that Jhin, working towards the Muramana. Team Liquid committing a lot of resources, a lot of manpower here mid to try to make sure they get this Herald charge off. Still shouldn't be quite enough damage to take out the tier 1, so EG's gonna keep that alive for now, as Jojo loses half of his health bar to some of the poke from Team Liquid, some of the ranged power that Caitlyn Lux, and they just want to allow Yeon to continue applying this pressure, try to work down the last little bit of health on that turret.
And I think Yeon's build here is pretty intelligent. Not only did he actually go fleet footwork, but he's going to be going Bloodthirster second. He has Overheal, he has Legend Bloodline, so poke is going to kind of stop mattering against his champion as long as there is a minion wave around. It doesn't really matter if you eat a Shock Blast once you have that BT completed. You're to full off of any minion wave, off of any jungle camp. So the options start becoming a little bit more limited if you are heavily reliant on that initial poke.
And I really like seeing pro players do this. Cookie cutters are for Christmas time with grandma. Stop doing your cookie cutter builds, pay attention to what's going on in the game and build appropriately.
What kind of cookies we having though?
Well, I mean, we can't find out because we're in a real game with a dude building real items for a real situation. That's a question for Christmas time. It's February. We're going to have to wait.
We got some time. We have a few months to figure it out.
We're scaling. We're scaling.
Cookies at Christmas, though? I'm kind of down for it.
Yeah, I'm totally down. I'll bake cookies with you.
We can make some Skarner cookies.
Yes,
Put it on the calendar.
do that. All right, Hextech Drake is up, though, my friends. Let's see who's going to go for that one first. Team Liquid seem to want to hang around mid and just try to see if they can grab this tier 1 turret. I think they're not going to have any issues picking it up there. Inspire does fire off the ulti. They're going to open up the curtain call, too. Looking for Yeon. Fourth shot going out. Doesn't hit him. Team Liquid trying to keep EG away. Inspired and Jojo sort of separated from the rest of the team, looking for some sort of a way to approach with a pincer attack. Not going to find it. So Team Liquid, they get their tier 1 turret mid. They escape any sort of real consequence from EG's attempted engage there with the ultis. And now they're able to rotate down, take this second Drake, tie that Drake count up for themselves.
Oh.
Summit's just going to teleport. That was a little bit of a risky TP that completes anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Jojo was pretty close to being able to actually knock that back. Yeah, hit him with the E in melee form, interrupt that TP. That would have been really, really bad. EG, though, are saying, all right, sure, you can get up here, but the rest of your team can't get up here that fast. So they're actually laying a trap for Pyosik, who's coming through, but Pyosik not the one you would want to engage on with Yeon and Core behind him.
Pyosik with that Gore Drinker has a little bit of extra tankiness beyond what you would initially think. The Jarvan also able to, as long as he has the flash, remember you can just Cataclysm somebody, flash out of your own Cataclysm, just get him stuck in jail there for a couple of seconds. 500 gold lead for TL, and that's it, man. 21 minutes of gameplay. The kills have slowed down. We had sort of like that back and forth, punch for punch in the early game, but now that we've settled into this like 20-minute state, things are not exactly keeping the same pace.
No, not at all, right? It has been a bit of a slower pace, and I think a lot of it is because neither team is making any of those major mistakes that are allowing the game to really be blown open.
Yeah.
And it's also become a lot more difficult for EG just because of how well someone actually laned after being put behind. I'm sure that EG were thinking, all right, so these early ganks top, we have Fiora, you're going to start taking over in that 1v1, you're going to start having pressure, but it never really was that case because Summit was the one that was actually winning out in a lot of these 1v1 trades, and Summit has been able to be more than equal to the challenge as far as answering people in these side lanes.
And that's always been his prowess and his pride as a solo laner is just his ability to deal with those situations, be aggressive, And if it doesn't get punished, the man ends up looking good. Pyosik over the wall with the EQ. Haeri gets the kill on Jojo. Pyosik walks away. He stays alive with the golden Aegis. Ssumday's very low. Ace in the hole blocked up by Vulcan. Team Liquid outplays them.
Yeah, FBI swing and a miss. Nice little backstep there from Pyosik on the first ulti. And then just straight up knows he has the time to actually get forward and get out of range of that next shot. He got out of the cone. Wasn't perfectly placed there from FBI. Was a little bit too far aimed down. And as a result, Pyosik is able to just walk right out of it, stays alive. Does spend his stopwatch, which that one's not coming back, but they force the stopwatch off of Jojo and they get the kill, so nicely done. Jojo, I think, actually played this quite well, getting maximum amount of damage here. And then notice how he actually Qs towards Summit with the timing, so he hits the Q on both of them, landing on Pyosik as well, which was really well done. Then Vulcan flashes in, hits the Q, hits the Ignite, but the backstep then gets just barely out of it, and the Ignite can't finish him off. The W comes off a cooldown there, which I think was actually a patch change from a while ago, so that's that small little change on cooldown, perhaps making the difference. Ssumday in trouble, though.
I mean, you saw that last tick of Ignite did damage the shield after he popped Golden Aegis, so if that was even just a split second later. TP's coming in, though. Ssumday looking to lead the charge, but he's got to be careful. Summit might just be able to kite him out. Pyosik wants to get away, but Jojo should have enough to take him out this time. There we go. One's going to come back as both junglers die from either side. Summon at about 1/3 HP, doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank to keep fighting with. They're going to regroup back with Yeon here in mid lane. It'll settle as a 1-for-1.
Actually, small thing, but really clever. Jojo did a max range acceleration gate there onto the Fiora instead of just doing it point blank for his shot blast. He actually put it out max range to speed up the Fiora there, so Fiora could help to catch up to Pyosik and get that little bit of damage down. But again, it is just that trade of kills, both junglers dying there in the side lanes. And more armor is going to be starting to come through, and this is going to be more problematic here for EG. Yes, it is some AP on the Maokai, but that's not really going to matter that much. We already have 2 pairs of tabbies, up towards that top side. We're having some armor be purchased up here as well. So that's going to be tough to deal with. Zonia's is also on Haeri, so there's a number of different sources that are going to be just extra efficient. It's not like a checkmate type situation where Sion has 600 armor, but it's just a buy that feels already good and now feels even better.
Yeah, especially with the lethality on the Jhin, like you pointed out earlier. I mean, Zonia's is always going to feel great for Azir. It allows him to be very aggressive with his initiation and his playmaking. Pyosik working towards Guardian Angel's second item, which is a pretty aggressive choice to just be able to say, I want to go in and not care about the consequences of that. And then Crown of the Shattered Queen for CoreJJ. I really like seeing it on a champion like this, where you can be able to just sort of, as long as you can survive initially, throw out your spells, your team will get you out.
And I think in these situations, people often think, oh, Crown is not good against poke. But when you're a support Lux, all of a sudden a shock blast from a Jayce is like 60% of your health, right? So it's actually negating a tremendous amount of damage if it is eating one of those accelerated shock blasts. So you do have to be careful about that. And they're just trying to get more ways to really deal with that poke. Yeon is honestly going to be someone who's really good at actually soaking that up now. You can see both the Bloodthirster and Overheal Shield. That's like 600 extra
So
life.
much HP.
That's going to absorb most of the shock blast, if not all the shock blast damage, right there.
And this is an Ocean map. So Ocean Soul becomes one of those things very, very important. If Team Liquid is able to get that, it stops that poke from being effective at all.
One thing that EG is going to be really happy about, though, is when you're playing Maokai, it's extra brushes for that. They're looking for an engage, though.
Oh my God! They just exploded him. Crown of the Shattered Queen or not, CoreJJ ain't got any health left after that one. And that is exactly the dream scenario that you were talking about. Lining up these ultis together. Maokai locks him down. Jhin goes click, click, boom. There's nothing left.
I mean, you want to run side to side when you're fighting against a Jhin ulti, but you have to run directly away when you're fighting against a Maokai ulti, right? You can't actually just be strafing back and forth. You're going to get locked up, and Core gets locked up. He gets burst down by that lethality. Pyosik is behind them, though, down in the jungle. So will Pyosik look for an angle here? He's still in the red right now. He just used Smite.
CoreJJ is still coming back from base. There's no way for him to join the fight in time. Ssumday is in the pit. The Drake is going to be claimed by Evil Geniuses. Pyosik engages and disengages with the EQ. Inspired's in the middle. He dies. Team Liquid, they lose the Drake, but they get the enemy jungler.
Yeah, they do get the enemy jungler, and it looks like a failed flash there from FBI. I'm pretty sure he flashed from inside the Cataclysm to inside the Cataclysm, so wasn't able to actually get out of there. Pyosik spent his Smite on that red buff, so I guess his decision was, we're not actually going to be able to fight for this. We're just going to instead look for the fight after, so they win that fight after that dragon, and now they're onto the Baron here. Inspired's dead for 15. There's not really much chance of a contest here unless EG can get some amazing poke.
And you saw right there, Jojo fired off accelerated shock blast, but it hit CoreJJ and it hit the crown of the Shattered Queen. So Core took almost no damage. Exactly what you were talking about. But FBI is looking to see what he can find here with these. It's going to be secured by Team Liquid and Pyosik. They get the Baron, and it looks like they'll be able to get away here. Jojo wants to try to stop him. Accelerated shock blast isn't going to get a whole lot. Honestly, TL, nice punish there.
Yeah, really, really good. They did give up the dragon, but it didn't matter because they kill the jungler afterwards. They take the Baron, and now they're in kind of this really rough situation that I was talking about earlier, where your wave clear really starts to come into effect. They have very, very poor wave clear. And against these Baroned up minions, they're going to struggle to actually push it out. So here's that previous play. Inspired does get chunked down, but the ulti does land. The crown is already broken. There's one shot, shock blast plus second shot. You are just gone. But then it's all about Pyosik here on this wraparound. You know, Pyosik goes all the way down, all the way around to the red buff. Then he's going to look up for this gank afterwards. This wraparound here, he steals the red buff. He has the sweeper rolling. They knew that he went down because there was the wards down in that bottom side river, but I'm not sure if they just lost track of him or if they thought that maybe he went back to his own jungle. So they get this uncontested, but there's no eyes on where Pyosik is coming from. And there it is, ulti and that flash from FBI still within the Cataclysm, unfortunately for him. Didn't really end up mattering here, but Inspired just sectioned off, burst down.
Inspired fires off that Maokai ulti again. Evil Geniuses decide this is when they want to go. Haeri with the Zonias makes it a 1-for-1 there as they trade Inspired for the Azir. CoreJJ gonna be found out now as EG gets a 2-for-1 trade here in this fight. Pyosik flashes in. What the hell was that? Double kill back over to Evil Geniuses. Pyosik just gives them a freebie. Summit's now trying to stand and fight, but Ssumday's ready to deal with them, just picks them off. It's the Team Liquid conga line. They get the Baron. They should be in a place to drive the game, but Evil Geniuses will gladly accept the gifted kill.
Now you see him, now you don't. EG makes Team Liquid disappear in the mid lane. TL pushing there, and you just say, yeah, we have terrible wave clear, so we're just gonna hard engage. We're just gonna look for the fight there, and they just went so fast. I love the engage. Again, Maokai ultimate coming in from the side here. Haeri over pushing. They're looking for this vulnerable target of that Azir. It's the Azir here without that lifesteal that they want the poke to come down on. So the E goes over, the root lands, shock blast comes through. It's blocked up by Yeon, nicely done by him. But then the flash twisted advance into the Zonias. The timing of it, out of it, was very, very nice. FBI nails it on the ultis, and then Ssumday, he's just in the back line, gets right in onto CoreJJ, takes him down, and look at where Gnar is. Gnar is still on his way. Pyosik is going in. If Summit was closer and had Mega Gnar, then that maybe makes sense, but Summit is a mile away, doesn't have Mega, then he tries to get in and save the play, and it's just kind of this Congo line of players going in one after another from TL. It almost feels like something goes wrong, and they're like, I gotta save it. I gotta make it happen.
I gotta go in.
It's up to me.
It didn't feel coordinated. I mean, the first 2-for-1 that EG got, that was EG playing well. The last 2-for-0 that EG
Those
got
were cookies
was,
from Grandma.
Well, yeah, it's Team Liquid just feeding them. Just make this. Gotta make sure we don't have any hungry boys in this house. That was really, really sloppy.
I don't know why that
really
broke
sloppy,
me.
man. From Pyosik and Summit.
Hungry boys in this house, that broke me.
All right, well.
Sorry.
Evil Geniuses is happy to have ended Team Liquid's Baron push with that. I mean, that's just about the best case scenario.
Yes,
you,
sir.
You get a 1-for-4 when you're up against that Baron, especially what you were talking about when they don't have the ability to clear the wave. Ssumday, yeah, I don't think Ssumday's getting away from this one. Yeah, he tried to get over the wall, but Pyosik was ready.
Yeah, I think he was dead either way, too. Ssumday really kind of overplaying his hand, got way too aggressive there. You know, he wanted to actually kill off the tower, but then started looking to actually kind of almost all-in Summit, but then you have tower aggro, then he goes back to try to kill off the tower, and he took so much free damage.
Yep.
It was kind of like he was doing, you know, trying to do two things at once, and you're not really going to be able to succeed in either. And that's a shutdown. The only saving grace is that it doesn't go to the Gnar, who's already kind of struggling with, and he does have the Shojin now, so 3 items, a ton of CDR there. Going to be feeling really, really strong in that 1v1 as long as he can play it out correctly, but Summit has just been so tough for him to deal with.
And Summit still has no armor besides his plated steel cap, right? He's got Sterix, he's got Cleaver, he's got Trinity Force. His health bar looks impressive, but he's deceptively squishy when damage starts rolling in.
Absolutely, especially against someone like Fiora, who does not care about how much health you have because it's percentage HP true damage, right? So if you can land all those vitals, you know, you proc a vital, you pop the ulti, you can do 5 vitals in a row there, and you can do most of someone's HP bar, no matter how big it is, in just true damage. So that is that difficulty that they'll have to deal with. But while Summit has, I think, received quite a bit of criticism, you know, at times fairly because of his over-aggressive play, he's dying to ganks a lot, he deserves praise for a game like this, where I think most Gnars, you know, after that early game, would have completely fallen apart and gotten just run over by Ssumday, who is in this matchup that can be difficult to deal with as it gets to later stages. But instead, he's continually been winning those 1v1s, you know, despite pressure, despite the fact that Fiora, you know, is this really strong late game champion, and he deserves praise for his laning skill.
And I think the key word there is the 1v1s, because we saw Inspired go up there to get Ssumday ahead early, and then afterwards it's like, okay, you've got a lead, run with it. But Summit's just the guy who's willing to say, I don't care if I'm behind, I'm a mechanically better player, I'm a good laner, I'm going to just win like this. And so because there wasn't that repeated attention, there wasn't that continual overloading and outnumbering, he's been able to do a good job in this game. He's still 50 CS ahead of his opponent, still the biggest difference in farm between any roll-to-roll comparison. In this 33-minute game, Ssumday goes in, issues the grand challenge, Summit immediately gnars him into the wall and jumps away. Doesn't look like there'll be anything else for Ssumday to do here.
And that's a great trait from Summit, because the Mega Gnar cooldown is like 0 when you're level 16.
Yeah, look at it. It's already almost back.
Yeah, as soon as you Mega Gnar, he has it again, guaranteed, right? So there's essentially no cooldown on that. Not that Ssumday's is that long with all his CDR, but it's still going to be a nice trade for him. Something I wanted to highlight, I really actually like the build here from Inspired going into that Redemption is actually really, really nice. He's never going to be tanky no matter what you build when you start out with this style of build. He's not going to get that kind of beefy status, so Ssumday's in trouble again. The move speed is not going to be gone. He's dead.
Still just chasing him down, man. Ssumday thought he was in control, and Gnar just bonks Summit with the 1v1 outplay.
It's just the top diff, man. What can I say? Like, the scoreline doesn't look that impressive from Summit, but they can't actually play their win conditions. In goes Yeon.
Yeon looking for the rest of the damage to take out Jojo, and he grabs it. Now EG got to be careful, because Pyosik and TL are not done yet. Summit lands the boomerang onto Vulcan, who has to flash over the wall, but Summit doesn't want to let him get away that easy. Deadly Flourish ain't gonna hit, but Summit's boomerang will. Vulcan drop, and FBI's the next target. Summit can't quite chase him underneath the turret, but Team Liquid are loving the results of this 3-for-0, and it should get them their second Baron uncontested.
Yeah, that's massive, and it comes off of, again, a huge play from Summit. He gets a solo kill onto Ssumday there, and then just TPs in, joins the fight, and TL go really aggressive. I actually like the play from Yeon. He just straight up Gale Forces in on top of Jojo as soon as he gets CC'd, and he knows he can burst down that Jayce. Wasn't really in that much danger himself, so now it's another Baron going the way of TL. 4.6k gold lead. This one is going to be tough for them to deal with. And it's Ssumday again who's opting into it. The reaction times are actually just so good from Summit. He jumps out of there so fast. Ssumday's never able to actually land that parry onto him or the second hit of the E. Like, he can't get any slows on this guy whatsoever. Summit just makes it look so easy.
Yeah, this is a really tough situation for Ssumday to deal with now. And then, of course, it comes back into this fight. As soon as we get here, Jojo's already dead to Yeon. And then as soon as Summit lands this boomerang, he's like, I've got Vulcan. Vulcan tries to flash, but when Summit's got his too, there ain't no way out.
Well, it's all the little things, right? He forces the flash off Inspired, then he actually uses the hop off of Pyosik to get in range to actually land that boomerang. You know, he's doing it so well. Gnar definitely one of his best champions by far, and now he does pick up the Randuin, so going to become very, very difficult for them to deal with. EG have no recourse but to just split push now. If Summit is going to be around them, it's going to be very, very difficult to engage, and as soon as they see Jojo top, TL know that there's no danger whatsoever. That's going to be a really, really difficult situation for them now. Mikhail's also done for CoreJJ, so that's an easy answer for whoever actually has to soak up that Maokai ultimate to just be able to remove that root.
Well, Pyosik decides he wants to engage now, disengages back out of his own Cataclysm as Inspired unleashes the roots. EG wants their engage here onto Pyosik. A lot of damage goes out. He buffers the EQ to take his corpse back over the wall, so he resurrects in a safe place. Now, Summit's the one tanking the tier 3 turret aggro here in the bottom lane. EG's attempt does not work out, and Team Liquid are not just throwing themselves into him after the fact. Much cleaner Baron play, much better result for Team Liquid off this second Baron.
Yeah, absolutely. This time they make sure to group up with Summit. They're not allowing EG that opportunity to actually find a 5v4, to find a 5v3. They know Summit doesn't have TP, so as soon as Jojo base, they just group 5 with Summit and say, yeah, you're going to have to go through this Gnar that is so damn strong. And now, this is going to be Soul Point grabbed up here for TL. So if Ocean Soul goes over, that is all the hopes that EG have of winning this game completely out the window. But I just kind of failed to see, how does EG ever win this game if they can't make something happen in the side lane? And they just have never been able to get it going. There's no shot that Ssumday can actually win the 1v1, because even when he was ahead on gold, or even on gold, he couldn't do it. Now he definitely can't when he's like a full item behind.
I mean, if you draft Fiora, you don't do that to lose side, right? Essentially, you must be able to win side lane, or this champion's entirely worthless. And unfortunately for Evil Geniuses, Summit has just outplayed time and time again. 5.5 items, just needs to upgrade that Executioner's Calling to whatever he would choose to upgrade it into. I would assume the Kim Punk Chainsword. And then once that's done, I mean, I don't.
I mean, you just hope that you can delay the game for a really long time. That's really what you're hoping for. You hope that Fiora can hit like 6 items and maybe find that outplay, you know. Because if you can get that 1 kill in the side lane for EG, then all of a sudden your options really become so much more diverse. You can start to actually, you know, either look for collapses, you can threaten the base, you can do all these different things and really tax the resources of TL. But if you can't get any pressure through side lanes, it becomes very, very difficult to really kind of play this game out, because all the skill shots are going to be coming at you only from that one angle, and they're going to look for the engage now on Yeon.
They want him. If they can get him, he uses the cleanse to get out, but now he has to use the stopwatch to keep himself safe from the follow-up engage. The shutdown over to Inspired. They got Pyosik in the middle now too, and Ssumday is gonna bust them. EG manages to find their engage, they find their fight, and they hold on in this game.
Yeah, it kind of felt like everyone just abandoned Yeon a little bit there. You know, they kind of left him out to dry. No one was blocking shots for him. He gets rooted up. Yeah, sure, he has the cleanse, but then Inspired is just flashing in right on top of him. Bramble smashing him right back into the team, and the stopwatch was not enough there, so TL get engaged on, get punished here. EG have been doing a good job to kind of fight their way out of these dire situations, finding this engage that does feel so chaotic to deal with the Maokai, with the Jhin ult, everything coming through. So they're finding ways to stay alive, but they will be forced to win a 5v5 or at least win a smite steal at this next dragon, because so much of their damage is about the poke, it's about the setup, you know, landing these shot glasses, softening people up, and then going in for the all-ins.
And I like the fact that you bring up setup, because it also presents an extra difficulty for EG, particularly against Team Liquid's composition. If TL control the map, if TL are at the objective first, you've got to deal with the Caitlyn wall. The cupcakes just absolutely blocking off one of the angles into the fight.
And this late in the game, and we've barely talked about Haeri at all, but he's on 3 items plus a death cap. Like that's enough. It doesn't even matter what else your opponents are on, but that plus Comet, you know, all the poke that's going to be coming through. You're trying to walk through Caitlyn traps, the Lux E, bindings, the wall of soldiers, all of these things that are going to make it very, very difficult. And it's just going to take a lot of time. Like, can you clear through it? Yeah, you can. But can you do it fast enough to actually get to the dragon? That remains to be seen.
Pyosik in the middle of everybody, not quite dead.
Oh no!
They end up killing Haeri, who just delivers a freebie. EG get 2, EG get 3. Summit trying to disengage and get away, but it's a triple kill back over to FBI.
That is a disaster for TL. Haeri goes in, he has the zone, he looks for the aggressive play, but he just gets one tap, and now Yeon is caught out. If they can kill Summit and Yeon, this could potentially be game ending. FBI is already pushing mid, but do they have the confidence to go for it? They're not sure they have the damage here.
Yeah, they know that the only damage out of these 3 is Ssumday. If Ssumday dies...
Wait, Yeon's just killing himself. What is he doing?
Yeon, what's going on, buddy? What are we doing? Ssumday goes in, goes back out.
Or is he?
He's gonna get shot to pieces. If Yeon kills Ssumday, the other 2 cannot kill Yeon. They don't have the ability to kill lifesteal Caitlyn. Yeon is just keeping everybody else here, saying, all right, Summit, I trust you to keep the base alive. Summit, however, loses the Sterix. Yeon still stuck behind enemy lines, back in the base, gonna be grand challenge, taken down. Summit survives back in the base. So Yeon using himself as a sacrifice to keep the EG players otherwise occupied, making it so FBI and Jojo will only take the mid lane inhibitor. That was a sequence of events if I've ever seen one,
I mean,
my friend.
that was a weird one. I'm trying to think through what his thought process was, and maybe he was thinking, hey, if they go to the base, they're just going to end. But it almost seemed like he thought more EG members were leaving to try to end the game, and he had to go push. Because the problem is now, he's dead. How do you fight the Baron? How do you fight these subsequent fights? Because he died so late, right?
Yeah.
He's still got 25 seconds, then has to walk there, so it's a full minute before he can get to the team. They're going to TP in, and if Summit gets caught, this is so bad.
Summit eating a lot of shots from FBI. The 4th shot misses, but it doesn't need to hit when Jojo's ready. Shut down on Summit, and again, it's desynced timers. Summit's not going to be alive for another 55
Pyosik's
seconds.
dead too.
And now Pyosik's been caught hanging around. Pyosik! Oh no, he's gonna
all falling to
resurrect
pieces.
just in time for the Guardian Angel to be wasted. Guardian Angel is such a powerful active, but if you use it in that situation, it doesn't matter. Haeri trying to take the Drake and still get Team Liquid this soul. They are falling apart in the last few minutes of the game.
TP from Ssumday though, can he get there in time?
There may be enough damage. Haeri needs 3 more autos, 2 more autos. Haeri gets it. Ocean Soul over to TL, so they've got that. But the problem is, what happens if they all get caught here? Doesn't look like EG has anybody that can do damage close enough to do anything about this. Summit's still dead for another 15. Pyosik's still dead for another 25. Haeri gets his TP off. FBI opens up the curtain call yet again. CoreJJ having a flash to get away.
This game is wild.
What
this
is
game is just
happening?
getting so crazy. EG are pushing on all sides. They know they have to try to end the game with the Baron. They've got to keep pushing because they don't want to get into a slow-paced game against this Ocean Soul. It'll be so tough for them to actually close it out. So they're trying to push aggressively. They did take the mid lane inhib. They couldn't get top because they couldn't stop the TP there. But this has just been like 5-10 straight minutes of insanity. You know, mistakes on both sides, but they're being capitalized on very heavily. I have to say more so by EG. I like the heads-up play, though, from Haeri to actually get down towards that dragon and claim Soul, because if they didn't have Soul here, I would be saying this game is for sure lights out. But the fact that they did allows them to potentially buy some time, delay the game, and maybe find a way back in.
Every day's a banger at the LCS. We got ourselves a game of League of Legends here. We're getting close to longest game of the split. That was only claimed, I believe, yesterday, but at around the 44, 45 minute mark. 45:08, I've been told, is the longest game of the split, so we're 2 minutes away.
So 2 GAs now purchased up there by EG, so that is very, very big. You know, they have it on Jojo, they have it on Ssumday, so Ssumday's 6 items. We talked about it a while ago, like 6 items in a dream for Fiora. Well, Ssumday got there.
Here we go.
So, you know, they have the time to get there. They are able to do it. We'll see what they can get done now. 6 items completed as well for Yeon. But his GA, you know, I think was already used and is on cooldown, so he actually it does have a Storm Razor now.
Swapped it out. Ssumday losing a chunk of HP there. Maokai ulti flies through. It's gonna find Summit, and it's gonna find Pyosik.
But look at the turret. Jojo's just killing it. They're just buying time for Jojo to kill the turret.
all they need.
That's really well done. You know, realizing they don't actually have enough to dive deep and get a kill there, so they just spend the Maokai ultimate, spend the Jhin ultimate. TL has to run, and it gives Jojo that time with the W to actually take down the turret.
Range is one of the most powerful stats in League of Legends. Ssumday coming in for vengeance. The grand challenge, another lunge, and he finally gets his man. Ssumday puts Summit in the ground for 60 seconds. It is a 5v4 for EG. Team Liquid was in so much control for so long, but it fell apart, and evil geniuses have clawed their way back into the game. All of TL has to find some sort of a defense here, but they're losing Nexus turrets, and they're losing them rapidly. First one's already gone, and Jojo's swooping around the side looking for an angle on Haeri and Yeon. Half HP left. Jojo's about to lose that Guardian Angel if he ain't careful, but FBI's already godlike. Yeon's under pressure. The Caitlyn falls next, and evil geniuses from the clutches of defeat come back and take down Team Liquid.
What a crazy game to kick it off here today in Super Week. That was a banger. That was such a nuts game, man. Back and forth, time and time again. TL, though, going to be so frustrated about that one. You know, had themselves in multiple situations where it felt like they were in control after they took the Baron, you know, multiple times. EG is able to find the windows for engages because EG didn't have wave clear. They couldn't actually just stand against a sustained push during that Baron buff. So EG's only option was to find the engages, and both mid lane and top lane, EG was able to do it, to find that engage, to find those kills that they really needed to actually push TL back and claw their way back into this game. And in those final moments, it may have been Summit who was winning the 1v1s time and time again in the earlier stages, but Fiora hit late game, you got to 6 items, and that's the fight that mattered at the end of the day.
Fiora in a 45-minute game of League of Legends is gonna start winning some 1v1s. The character is designed this way. She has like an enraged timer, and if she hits the timer, by the way, it's 30% of your HP guaranteed every auto attack. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it gets really, really tough. And I've got to say, even though it was not like a clean, easy game or anything by any means from EG, I actually really liked the creativity and the composition. Yeah, I thought that there was a cool thought process to it. I thought that it actually worked out pretty well, especially the fact that they were playing against TL and Summit, you know, if this was against another team, maybe even though they're up against a Fiora, they just lock Sion and stand under their turret, and then every time you Jhin ulti, he just soaks it.
Yeah.
But kind of playing against the team, not only, you know, the champions, they knew, I think, that someone would want to play something a little bit more aggressive, want to play something that's a little bit better in that 1v1, so he wasn't going to go to a pure tank. And the Maokai ultimate plus Jhin ulti, every single time they actually went for it there, created chaos. It was really, really difficult to actually deal with, and it felt like that was the way that they got all their kills. That was the way that they were able to actually fight their way out of these situations that it didn't feel like they should be able to with this pretty creative composition.
Well, it was a crazy game number 1. Coming up later today, Courage from 100 Thieves is heading here to the LCS studios to cast game 3. But after the break, Jojo is going to join the lounge for some VOD review. And after that one, y'all know you don't want to miss it. Keep it right there.
For me, the biggest challenge for this program is this idea that you have to be willing to sacrifice something in the short term to build something in the long term. And there's a lot of distractions in the way. There is the immediate feedback that you get after every win or loss. There's both on stage but in scrims, and it is a very emotional response that you kind of have to look past if you want to work on something in the long term.
The biggest thing that I've learned working with the team so far is this has been like one of the rosters that's probably tried the hardest in scrims compared to other teams. But at the same time, like we have a ton of things that we need to work on, so each week is just a process of focusing on one thing at a time.
We also have like a really high skill ceiling compared to like other teams. It's like we're a much newer team and like our roster is pretty young.
I think everybody wants to win every week, like whether it's super week or not. I think a big win for us would just be stable and competitive games, win or lose. The most important thing for me is that we're improving on the things that we're working on week to week, and then eventually the results will come on stage.
Red Bull gives you wings. Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hmm?